show his scars, say these wounds. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgotten. For he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Got a question for you. Who's got it better than us? Nobody! Each other has...
Welcome to the Big House, CFB Nation. How are you? I'm Andy. We're back again with another episode, so let's get right into it. Since we took our break, a lot has happened. We're 9 weeks away from Fresno State. Now, let's break down some news that's happened since our last episode. With Michigan, they have named Erin Dunston as the new director of operations. She had been with Ohio State, but decided to go to a better program and a better route by going to Michigan. In her most recent role at Ohio State, she was responsible for coordinating all recruiting efforts with a primary focus on official visits, unofficial visits, and game day recruiting programming that included junior days and special events. Now, that's according to the Ohio State football website. Now, she also worked in conjunction with the creative staff to support social media channels for Ohio State. You know, we've seen Ohio State when they do have their recruits coming in, they have great kind of background, great graphics. It looks really good. That's what these recruits want. And Ohio State was really in the know on what these kids wanted. She now was that big part of that. She goes to Michigan, and I believe this is going to be an absolute game changer. Now, she was interviewed prior to getting promoted to the assistant athletic director at Ohio State, where she said that she had aspirations of becoming an athletic director one day. You know, she said that it's important to build relationships, and that is Michigan's culture. It's about relationships. It's about creating that family atmosphere. So this is an absolutely fantastic hire that I am so happy of. Now, she only has Ward Manuel in front of her, and all Michigan faithfuls know he sucks, simply put. And the sooner that he's out, the better the program will be in the long run. Now, this is the second hire that Ohio State has lost to Michigan, and I'm really excited for this. I'm excited to see this recruiting trail, how it's going to look. You know, 2025, this upcoming class is going to be nice, but the 26th class, that's the class that I'm keeping my eyes on. Now, we do have some official visits that have happened. We do have some more that are along the way, but the future at Ann Arbor looks really, really bright. Now, let's kind of pivot from that for the moment to talk about some of the portal guys who have now kind of, put themselves on campus at Ann Arbor, and they've had some quotes. The first one is cornerback Amir Hall. He's the one from Albany, where he was a FCS All-American. He was on the Devin Gardner podcast, and he said that Lamar Morgan was his head recruiter. He contacted him and really got the ball rolling. He took a visit to Ann Arbor, brought his entire family with, and he said that it just felt like home. His entire family loved the trip too. And he sat down with Sharon Moore. The two talked and pretty much laid out the expectations if he were to become a Michigan Wolverine. And he was honest with him. He didn't guarantee him a spot or anything. He said, you're going to come in, you're going to compete. It's a culture about winning. It's a culture about family. Now, Hall turned down more guaranteed playing time at programs like Virginia, Syracuse, and Indiana. He says he prides himself as being a physical, tenacious, and relentless corner. That's what I see when I put on his tape and kind of watch his film. So he's going to be interesting. I do think in the long run, he'll be more of a special teams guy. But Hall said that he looked at Josh Wallace and kind of see what Michigan was able to do for Wallace. With Josh Wallace, he transferred in from UMass, and he was able to make a name for himself as the opposite corner. And now he's got a chance to make the 53-man roster in the NFL. Now, the other cornerback is Ricky Johnson, the UNLV corner. He said he came to Michigan for an opportunity. He said he wanted to compete. He said he wants to make an impact. And I think he'll be able to do that. I think he'll make a good depth piece. He'll come in and during the non-conference schedule when the games are kind of a blowout. But I think overall, the four guys that came in, especially Wesley Walker and Jaden Mangum, the two at safety, I think those would be the two pickups that would be the most important. Those two guys kind of they're being overlooked right now, but I think those guys, while they're not household names, they're the guys that help patch up that safety because now Rod Moore doesn't have to rush back. He doesn't have to come back this season from that ACL. He can take a medical redshirt and come back next year where the depth at safety should be really good. And so I'm excited to see what Mangum does and if he gets some playing time this coming season. Now, Sharon Moore, he has enhanced the recruiting room. We saw some, Michigan fans before this hire that took place a few weeks ago. They were concerned about Sharon Moore taking over as the head coach, how the recruiting was going to go. At the time, there was only about 4 guys that were signed, and, they went out and they got some guys. They got 5 guys to be recruiting analysts. The first guy is Jacob Weber. He is the recruiting analyst at West of Michigan. He comes into Michigan. Jacob Sack, he was at Pitt. Preston Sagan, he worked at Clemson. We know how Clemson does really well in the recruiting. They have to do well in the recruiting because they don't do the portal. We saw Jack Turner. He was the assistant director of football operations at Davidson. And before that, he was on the recruiting staff at Wake Forest. We know with Wake Forest, they get some very good guys that come in and then they get developed. And then the last guy they brought on externally is Aiden Young, the recruiting assistant at Oregon. Now, 2 guys they did promote from within, from interns to an actual paid position. Those are Reed Kuehl and Richard Perry. Now, those promotions were done a few weeks ago, and Michigan bolstered that recruiting room, and it paid off right away. Like I said, when we left off, Michigan had about 4 signees. We're now up to 12. Now, let's kind of cover the offensive weapons this week, and we'll kind of bring you more next week and the weeks upcoming. The first guy that I want to talk about is quarterback Carter Smith. He's 6'3", 175 pounds, and what he does well is he does really well with off-platform throws. He's able to navigate the pocket well. He's a good runner. He isn't afraid to get dirty. He's going to block. He's going to chip in. He's going to do whatever it takes. And what I like about him as a passer is he layers his throws pretty well, and he will be someone that climbs the pocket. He's not someone that needs a clean pocket like you see a lot of these quarterbacks in high school. He will get right into the teeth of the defense and throw it right down the middle. Now, he does play loose and he does well in rhythm. How I kind of project him is I don't think he's going to be the answer at quarterback at any time in his time at Michigan, but I do think he'll add some good depth. And you always want to get at least one quarterback in every class because you never know how they'll develop. So Carter Smith could be someone that takes that kind of developmental project and becomes something that could end up being a starter one day at Michigan. But the likelihood of the starter in 2025 is currently already on the roster. Now, the next player that I want to talk about is running back Donovan Johnson. He is 6 foot, 210 pounds, and he comes from the powerhouse high school at IMG Academy. He is a track athlete, and he did miss 2023 with a knee injury. He does have good contact balance. I do like his running style. He does have power. He is a tough physical runner. He does have enough wiggle. Now, at IMG Academy, we know that they do like to run the ball. So we'll kind of get to see him this year being more removed from his injury and see how well he does with his knee, how well he'll able to kind of pivot laterally and see how he does with that. And then he'll come into Michigan, again, more months removed away from that injury. I do like that signing. But the running back that I'm really excited about is the next one I'm talking about. That is running back Jasper Parker. He is 6'1", 200 pounds. Now, he is a 3-star, whereas Donovan Johnson is a 4-star. But Parker, when I watch his tape, he's the guy that I keep going back to. He's the guy that got juice. He's a patient runner, good lateral quickness. He is slippery, and he's a runner that gets downhill fast. He is someone that's not going to waste time going east and west. He's going to get north and south, and I do like that about him. He is someone that has very good contact balance. He does run wide receiving routes. He has been lined up out wide. They did run routes with him. And as a running back, they did do some wheel routes too. So he is someone that is going to be a threat not only as a runner, but as a receiver. And he brings good size already, being 6'1" and at 200 pounds. I really do like that. I think he is a runner, or I think he's a player that's getting under recruited by the services. I think at the end of the day, he should be a 4-star prospect. He is someone that I'm very excited for. Currently, the only wide receiver that has committed right now is Jacob Washington. He is 6'3", 180 pounds. Now, he claims he runs a 4.4 in the 40. He does have that good speed when you watch his tape and you watch him kind of perform. Now, he's very good on comeback and kind of those stop and go routes. So I do like that about him. We see at Michigan, they're kind of leaning towards the athlete in that room, people that are good after the catch, people that are good, that have wiggle, that can create on their own, have good lateral quickness and agility, and have that speed. So we kind of see that in this class. And with Washington, he does bring a little bit better size. He is a good route runner, and I do like that he does have fluid hips in him. He'll be able to make all the necessary routes that you want to see in a true traditional wide receiver. And he is not someone who is going to be afraid to work down the middle. So I do like that about him. And then finally, we're going to talk about tight end Eli Owens. He is 6'1", 215 pounds. He is a very good blocker. And at Michigan, that's what you have to do. You have to block. And he is someone that I do like. He is someone that he's got that mauler instinct in him for only being 215 pounds. He does have good receiving skills. And when he does have the ball in his hands, he is kind of slippery. He is a good mover, a good athlete. He can make a defender miss. And so he has been also lined up detached from the line. So he does bring some versatility to the tight end room. And we're all expecting Colston Loveland to have a huge season and go to the NFL. So to be able to get a tight end to kind of replenish that room, that is very good. Now, those are the recruits for the 2025 class. We will talk about more next week. And then we do have some more official visits coming on. And then in July, we do have a big potential wide receiver that will be making his commitment, and Michigan is in his final 3. Now, let's talk about Micah Kayapana. He has enrolled at Ann Arbor, and he is someone that he's going to get into the strength and conditioning program. He's going to be able to put on some weight, and he's going to be able to, I believe, beat out Cole Cabana. I don't think much of Cabana. I think he is really just a death piece. He's around, I think he's up to about 180 pounds. But when he came in as a recruit last year, I believe he was around 170 pounds. He's not someone that I feel will ever take on any kind of big role at Michigan. So I believe he'll be able to kind of surpass him on the roster, on the depth chart. But I do believe he'll be someone that will make an impact on the special teams and be a good teammate year 1. That is Micah Kayapana. Now let's talk about Will Johnson here. Now he talked about his leadership role. He was also on the Devin Gardner podcast, and he talked about taking on that leadership role. With the defense losing a lot of upperclassmen to the draft and to graduation, he said he felt it was his responsibility with the status of who he is and with the name that he is carrying to kind of be that next guy, to be that teammate that kind of everyone looks after and looks for, and to kind of coach the other guys up. And he would go on in his interview on the Devin Gardner podcast. He would go up and talk up Zeke Berry and talk up Jair Hill as being 2 guys that are going to make an impact this year in the secondary. And he said that Zeke Berry has all the potential to be an All-American this year. Now, Hill took the needed steps to kind of be where he is. And all he really needs to do is just keep working and grinding this summer. I think Jair Hill, opposite Will Johnson, he's going to be a great cornerback too for the upcoming season. Now, earlier I talked about Colston Loveland, how we all expect him to take on a big role. So I kind of want to talk about Colston Loveland in depth a little right here. And he is 6'5", he is 245 pounds. He put on about 15 pounds this offseason. He was a 4-star in the composites, the number 13 ranked tight end in the nation. He is from Gooding, Idaho, and was part of the 2022 class. Now, with Loveland, he was a 2-sport athlete who was also a basketball player for Gooding. He averaged 12.8 points per game with 8.5 rebounds and 2.4 steals per game. He also shot 40% from three-point range, and we saw that in his final season. He set school records for receptions during his time at Idaho, at Gooding. And he was initially a wide receiver. They ended up moving him to tight end. And for his career at Gooding, he had 235 receptions for 3,141 yards and 35 touchdowns. Now, with Loveland being a standout at Gooding from the start, Loveland, with him having his wide receiver skills and being able to kind of translate that to being a tight end, when he enrolled, the coaching staff absolutely raved about him from day one. As a true freshman, they kind of put packages for him to kind of get him the ball. He would end up starting 5 games as a true freshman, and pretty much the rest is history. Now, what should we expect from him this season? I fully expect him to be a leading target earner. I fully expect him to kind of be that go-to guy, be that safety blanket for whoever the quarterback is. And I do expect this to be his final season in Ann Arbor. He is my tight end 1 for the 2025 class. I do think he is a first-round kind of a talent, and I do think he goes in the first round. I think he is that kind of a player. Now, he has all the tools to be someone that the NFL is absolutely going to love. He has the weight, he has the size, he's got the hands, and he is someone that will block. I think he is the most well-rounded tight end in the 2025 class. Now, that brings us to our throwback player of the day, and that is going to be tight end Jeremy Tooman. Now, he was a Michigan Wolverine from 1995 to 1998, a first-team All-Big Ten from 1996 through 98, and being an All-American in 1997. Now, he caught the game-winning touchdown in the 1998 Rose Bowl, and for his career at Michigan, he had 95 receptions for 1,240 yards and 12 touchdowns. He was a 5th-round pick in the 1999 NFL Draft, 136 overall, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he would go on to spend 9 years with the Steelers. He was also a very important part in that run blocking game. He was that glue guy for the Steelers. He would end up going to Arizona for his final season to kind of pair up and go with Ken Wisenhunt. And at the end of the day, and for his career, he suited up in 123 games, 46 receptions, 541 yards, 7 touchdowns, and most importantly, a Super Bowl champion. Now, thank you for kind of tuning in to this episode of Welcome to the Big House. I know we took a hiatus for a few weeks, but we are back, and we'll be coming back to you every single week. And I want to give a special thank you to Dwight Peebles for the intro, Nino Brown for producing me, and the entire CFB Nation family. And until next week, who's got it better than CFB Nation?